was a stormy night, and Jake, a college student, found himself stranded at a deserted bus stop on the outskirts of town. His car had broken down, and with no taxi service available and his phone battery dead, he had no choice but to wait for the last bus. He glanced nervously at his watch, 11:45 p.m. The bus was due any minute. The rain poured down in sheets, and the wind howled, rattling the shelter around him. Jake wrapped his jacket tighter, hoping the bus would arrive soon. The area was quiet, unnervingly so. No cars passed by, and the streetlights flickered in and out. Just as he was about to lose hope, a set of dim headlights appeared in the distance. The bus slowly approached, its tires splashing through the rain-soaked street. It looked old and weathered, with rust covering its frame, and the lights inside flickered faintly. Jake hesitated, but he had no other option. He boarded the bus. The driver, an elderly man with hollow eyes and a blank expression, didn't speak. He simply nodded as Jake paid his fare and moved to the back of the bus. There were only a few passengers scattered throughout, silent, staring out the windows, their faces obscured by the dim light. Something about the atmosphere felt off, but Jake was exhausted, so he took a seat and leaned back, hoping to catch some sleep. The bus jolted forward, and as it rumbled through the empty streets, Jake noticed that the windows were fogging up, but it wasn't cold. The air felt strange, heavy, oppressive. He tried to shake off the feeling of unease, but it only grew stronger as the bus continued its route. After a few minutes, he glanced at his fellow passengers. They hadn't moved, hadn't said a word. Their faces were still turned toward the windows, but now Jake could see them more clearly. Their clothes were tattered and wet, like they had been caught in the storm for hours. And their skin, it was pale, almost gray, with dark circles under their eyes. Something wasn't right. Jake shifted in his seat, trying to ignore the creeping fear in his chest. He looked out the window, trying to distract himself, but the view outside was unsettling. The bus was passing through unfamiliar streets that didn't exist on the route he knew. The buildings outside were old, crumbling, and the trees looked dead, their branches twisted into unnatural shapes. "Excuse me," Jake said, his voice cracking with tension. "Where are we going?" The driver didn't respond. Jake stood up and walked toward the front of the bus. As he passed the other passengers, he noticed something horrifying. None of them were breathing. Their bodies were rigid, lifeless, their eyes dull and vacant. They weren't passengers at all. They were corpses. Jake stumbled backward, his heart racing. Panic surged through him, and he rushed to the front of the bus. "Stop the bus! Let me off!" he shouted, pounding on the partition separating him from the driver. The driver finally turned his head, his expression blank, eyes dark and empty. "This is the last stop," he said in a low, monotone voice. His voice sent chills down Jake's spine. The bus lurched forward, picking up speed. Jake grabbed onto the railings, struggling to stay upright. He ran toward the back door, trying to force it open, but it wouldn't budge. The bus was speeding through a desolate, fog-covered road now, the scenery outside growing more distorted with each passing moment. Suddenly, the interior lights flickered violently, and the bus was filled with whispers, low, incoherent voices that seemed to come from the dead passengers. The whispers grew louder, echoing around Jake, filling his head with fear and confusion. Desperately, Jake pounded on the windows, but they were locked shut. The whispers turned into screams, horrifying, blood-curdling screams. The dead passengers slowly turned their heads toward him, their hollow eyes fixated on him, mouths twisted into unnatural smiles. The bus hurtled faster, as if driving into some abyss. Jake looked ahead and saw the road dissolving into darkness, a void that seemed to pull the bus deeper and deeper. He felt like he was falling, being swallowed by something unspeakable. Just as he thought there was no way out, the bus screeched to a halt. Everything went silent. The lights inside the bus flickered back on, dim but stable. Jake, trembling and drenched in sweat, turned to see the bus doors slowly creak open. Without hesitation, he bolted off the bus, stumbling onto the rain-soaked street. As he looked around, he realized he was back at the same bus stop where he had boarded. But something was different. The rain had stopped, and the streets were eerily empty. He looked back at the bus, but it was gone, vanished into thin air. There were no tire tracks, no signs that it had ever been there. Shaken, Jake stumbled home, his mind racing. The next day, still haunted by the experience, he researched the bus online. He found old articles about a bus that had gone off a bridge during a storm years ago. All the passengers had died, including the driver. The accident had occurred at 11:45 p.m., the exact time Jake had boarded the bus. The article mentioned something chilling. Legend had it that the bus still appeared to those who were lost or stranded in the middle of the night, offering them a final ride to the afterlife. Jake never took a late-night bus again.